Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, my HOA busybody neighbor sued my kid for using chalk on the sidewalk, claiming that we are vandalizing the neighborhood. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. And the title story starts like this. Everybody has different fond memories of the fun things they did as a kid when the weather was nice. Maybe it's the artist in me, but I always love to go outside and just cover the entire driveway and walkway in chalk drawings. I did not even get upset when it rained or the sprinkler went off and washed it away. I was actually happy that I had an empty canvas again. Now, this might sound really random, but my point of that little trip down memory lane was that once my kids were old enough for it, I got them one of those jumbo buckets of sidewalk chalk. Just like their dear old mom, they loved it, and for years they would draw pictures and even have me getting on the ground with them to draw. After a bad divorce, I ended up moving into a new neighborhood with my kids. They were 5 and 8 years old and both nervous and excited about the new house. It was winter when we moved, so it wasn't until a few months later when it was warm enough to go outside and break out the chalk to draw. I'm gonna pause the story here and talk about the HOA in my new neighborhood. I didn't really have a choice to join it and didn't have much experience with them. I saw they had a lot about keeping kids safe, so I actually was for it at the time. I did not know about all the horror stories I found when looking things up online until way later. I knew one thing for sure, and that was they were very strict with their rules. I could not afford any fines digging into my limited budget, so I really tried to make sure I did not do anything wrong. Some things like mailbox regulations and things you can plant on your property did not seem to make much sense to me. Things like not leaving trash all over the property and having to pick up after your dog, on the other hand, I liked. It kind of evened out for me and I had no issues with the HOA or being part of it. That was until that warm summer day. Okay, now back to the story. I do monitor my kids, but like every single parent, there's a moment of nature calling and having to figure something out fast. They were on the property and I would only be gone for a few minutes. To avoid two kids being upset and taking forever to get inside, I went by myself. I warned them to not move from where they were until I got back. I was gone maybe 5 minutes, and to the credit of my children, they took what I said literally. They had not moved an inch despite the fact that there was a screaming lady and 5 cops standing very close to them. I think I stopped breathing before getting my kids up and pushing them behind me. Everybody was talking, including my 2 kids, but it all seemed to meld together. I needed everybody to stop for a minute so I could find out why the cops were suddenly at my house. I was lucky enough that one officer told the lady to be quiet for a minute and I was able to get a word in. Me, what's going on here? Officer, ma'am, are these your children? Me, yes, I just went to the bathroom for a moment. Did something happen? Officer, this woman called us claiming that you and your children were illegally defacing private property. Me, what? HOA woman, you heard him. I saw what you were doing and there's a clear rule in the bylaws about vandalism. Me, we were not vandalizing anything, and yes, it's private property, but it's my property. We didn't go over the line or something. HOA woman, that doesn't matter. You're breaking the bylaws and probably the law with your chalk. How do we know that those aren't gang images or something that will attract horrible people? I look down and see the 3 drawings we had so far, a bunny, a house and a car, along with a ton of random scribbles. Obviously very dangerous. The cops would not arrest me since there was no crime with it being my own property and not defacing anything. The woman was not done yet, and before I knew it, the HOA was suing me for over $110,000, claiming that I not only broke HOA rules but did so in a way that ruined the neighborhood, causing damages that they would have to pay for and wanted me to have to give them money for. Their lawyer just started going through multiple HOA rules that they were claiming all applied to the case. One about hate symbols being etched into the neighborhood which would scare innocent people, one about no gang activity being allowed, and of course one about vandalism that went on to say no permanent alterations to the streets can be made without HOA approval. One example given being spray paint and how graffiti can ruin a neighborhood. And well, these were all the things they claimed I broke on that day with my kids. I wish I was kidding. I was smart and took photos of my driveway that day so the judge could see exactly what was there. The HOA was questioned about if the symbols being drawn were known by them or the police as being gang-affiliated. We all knew that it wasn't, but I guess certain things just have to be asked anyway. Finally, I got questioned on why I did not think that I should have to pay them anything for what happened that day. I hit them back with their own HOA rules and focused on where it talked about the permanent altercations. Since it was clear to everybody the nature of what was drawn didn't break any rules, I told them that sidewalk chalk does not fit under the same categories as things like spray paint because they are easily removed. Either with natural rain or a hose, I have never known chalk to last for more than a few days to a week at most. Also, that it was clearly my driveway in the picture, and I was not doing this in the streets where they might have some kind of case with it. So therefore, the case was obviously thrown out by the judge because the HOA has nothing substantial to actually sue me for. It was made clear by that whole ordeal that it was perfectly fine and I could draw with my kids the entire summer. Still, I felt like there was one more thing I had to do before I could drop the entire thing. I went to the store and got a ton of chalk to give out to any kid in the neighborhood that wanted it. I cannot tell you how much joy it brought me to drive through the area and see so many driveways and sidewalks filled with the drawings of the children. The HOA was probably fuming about the entire thing, but honestly, that just made it better for me. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would say that's a good, kind-hearted way to get revenge on a stupid entitled HOA. But honestly, I think a lot of people try to move into an HOA to get a better life for their family, you know, more security, etc. But it seems like a lot of HOAs actually hate children. Very strange turn of events. Either way, if you like the HOA stories, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post a comment because that would boost the algorithm. Thank you so much. The next one is titled Malicious Story. So this happened a while ago. I had to deliver some of our company's products from one worksite to another multiple times. I usually arrived before the other employees started their work, so I figured I could unload my car already in order to save my coworkers time and for me to not be interrupted during my work later during the day. Plus, I was the one who knew which products were ordered by which customer, so I didn't have to spend time on figuring out which belongs to which customer, since I was the one who loaded everything into the car. So I put all the loose products for each customer from the trunk on a separate Euro pallet, pushed it into our workshop with a pallet truck, put the delivery notices in each of them, and left them in a visible place for my coworker to move them wherever he wanted, whenever he wanted, without much hassle or manpower needed. When he arrived and started working, I went up to him and told him what products arrived and for which customer these were, in order to make sure he knows about the orders as well. Since I didn't know where to put the pallets, I placed them into the workshop via the pallet truck because I didn't want these products to stay outside and opening up an opportunity for passerbys to steal the company products. After I did this same procedure twice, he came up to me and gave me a 10-minute lecture about how it could possibly come to my mind to make such a huge mess in the workshop. He criticized that I put the products in the wrong place, messing up his storage system, and that the products fell off the Euro pallets all the time, which is funny because it didn't happen when I used the pallet truck to bring them into the workshop. As such, he declared that I'm not allowed to unload the car again. A week later, we received a huge order with over 2 tons worth of products. I had 560 kg of different products customized but not packaged in my truck. As per his request, I did not unload the car. At some point he came up to me and asked me to unload the car. My response: no, I will just make a huge mess in the workshop. And we don't want the products to fall off from the pallets. You should just do it by yourself. His face when he realized he had to sort it all out himself and manually unload, it was quite funny. It was even better when he noticed that I could not bring a delivery notice because the order was not complete yet. And thus he had to check every single product and write down what products arrived in which quantity already, all by himself. Of course I knew the quantities, but he didn't ask me. So that 5-minute task easily took him half an hour to do. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious, if you ever got malicious compliance at your workplace, please let us know in the comments about it. I would love to hear. The next one is a revenge story. It starts like this. Something like 25 years ago, I had a landline in my bedroom. About 3 months after I got it, I started getting calls every day for the local golf course. I told them they had the wrong number and hung up. Some people would call back over and over, insisting that they were calling the number on the card. So I hopped on my bike and headed to the golf course, took on one of their carts and discovered that they were indeed showing my number. I talked to the manager who insisted it was their number. I asked him to call it, but he refused, probably because he knew he would end up talking to my parents, so no resolution. So then I went home, and for the couple years I accepted every single reservation that called me, no matter what time they wanted. Their reviews were not great and most were complaints about the reservation process. And the next one is a revenge story again. So a few months ago I volunteered to plan my mother-in-law's 60th birthday and my father-in-law's 64th birthday, which was a weekend in wine country. I made a reservation for a group of 10 at a new upscale restaurant months beforehand. Because it was also a winery, we arrived 2 hours early and checked in with the restaurant to see if they could seat us earlier. Despite an empty restaurant, they said they couldn't, and that was no big deal. We understood that they could be low-staffed, so we went and got some wine and hung out and listened to live music. Close to our reservation time, I got a text from the restaurant to be seated. It was beginning to rain. We walked over to the hostess and she informed us that because it was raining and because our table was outdoors, that they would not be able to seat us tonight. As calmly as I could, I explained to them that I've had a reservation for months. I've been here for 2 hours and I was not told that my reservation was for an outdoor table or subject to rain. There was no indoor and outdoor option. I explained to them that it was for a 60th and 64th birthday party. I asked if they could split us up between tables and they just kept saying that there was nothing they could do and that it wasn't their fault. Supposedly because we cannot control the weather. I snapped a little and said sharply, "Well, what you could have done was not reserve out a table to a large party that you could not guarantee." The manager just shrugged. We left, and because it was a Saturday at 6 p.m, there was no way we were getting a seat at another restaurant. I had to go to the grocery store and cook a full meal for 10 people. I emailed the manager to ask them if there was anything they could comp because our experience was so terrible. I got no response after a week, so I made multiple Gmail accounts and left what was a fairly new restaurant 10 different 1-star reviews. In the reviews I said that you should never book this restaurant if you have a large party, how they didn't try to find us a table at another restaurant and how they had 2 hours to fix their error. As well as that they booked out a table they couldn't guarantee and that they didn't move a table undercover, which there was plenty. Also, that they didn't provide any comps or otherwise make any attempt to fix their error. They ended up with a 2-star drop in their Google rating because of my reviews. I left 1 review for every person that didn't get a seat. Several days after I had posted, they reached out offering to comp a meal for my in-laws if our group took the reviews down, which I refused. And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know in the comments whether you think OP did the right thing in this story or if he went too far. Either way, the next one is a story from r/AITA and it is titled, "Am I the douche for selling my family home because my pregnant sister-in-law ate my dinner?" I also want to point out me and my brother have 2 different fathers. Anyway, I, 19 female, lost my father last year to cancer. He left me 90% of his stuff, including his family home, that was left to him by his dad. It's been in their family for over 100 years. My brother, 34, and my dad did not have a relationship, but he did leave him 10k. My mom was pissed at the will reading, but since she got 10k, she couldn't do anything about it. For the past year, me and her live okay together. She went on acting like it was her house like before, which I had no problem with, until in May my brother and his girlfriend, 30, moved in without even asking me. They are messy, entitled and rude, and I told them in July I want them out by September because they don't pay for anything nor wash a dish, and in August they announced they were pregnant. My sister-in-law smugly said, "Guess we won't be moving out now." It didn't go down well. When I told them that I wanted them out, my mom and brother basically laughed in my face. And well, the past few months have been hell. They've become worse than before and my mom enables it and then demands me to treat my sister-in-law like a princess because she is pregnant and I once had to wait outside McDonald's until they opened to get her a McMuffin. And well, here I maybe was the a-hole because my sister-in-law is pregnant, she eats everything she sees, like the cupcakes my friend made for my birthday. She ate all 6, didn't even get to try them. I cannot even make my lunch the night before because when I go to get it, it will be gone. She will have a smug look on her face while rubbing her belly, then laugh and say, I could not help myself. Blame the baby. If I put stuff in my room, my mom will open the door with the spare key, sister-in-law can go through my mini fridge. Well, anyway, a week ago I was running late to college, I didn't have time for my breakfast or to make lunch, and I had to go to work straight after. So all I had that day was a bar of chocolate, and when I got home I was starving. I made myself dinner while it was cooling down. I went to use the bathroom. I must have been in there 10 minutes at most. By the time I came out, she had 70% of my dinner eaten, and I literally lost my crap, of course, and she started crying. My mom and brother started screaming at me for making her cry, making excuses like how she couldn't help it and it was my fault for leaving food around her. Well, I had enough. I told them get out, just like before. I got mocked, but here's the thing. Back in October, my uncle offered me a life-changing amount of money for the house. I called him up, crying a few days ago, explaining the situation, and he said he would buy the house, but he will evict my mom and brother. They of course did not take it too well, and I've had to stay with a friend. I've been receiving texts and I'm being tagged in multiple posts on social media. I'm starting to think that I'm the bad person now. So, am I the jerk for making my mom and brother homeless? Comment number 1, not the a-hole. They stomped all over you, man. They didn't treat you like family, so why should you treat them that way now? You're fine, mate. Your uncle is the one evicting them, not you. Comment number 2 also said, not the a-hole. I would sell the house, let them get evicted, and have a smug look in my face when they are out on the street. Family means nothing if they treat you like trash. Comment number 3, not the a-hole. To be honest, you should have gotten legal papers drawn to evict them and involve the cops, because it seriously seems like they were emotionally abusing you. And yeah, ripe stars, I would also say that OP was definitely not the a-hole in this story. However, I'm so curious about what you have to say in regards to this story. Let me know in the comments what you think. And now we will read an update to the story. So I'm on a break, I will address some stuff. Some of your roasts are hilarious, I honestly deserve it for how bad my grammar is. So if I sell the house to my uncle, I will lose 100k, but he's always been good to me and it's one of those situations where I would sleep better knowing it's gone to someone in my dad's family. My mom told me because of my age I wouldn't be taken seriously if I tried to evict them. If I evict them and continue to live in the house along with the high financial costs, I don't think they would ever let me live in peace. The thing is, my mom has health issues and my sister-in-law will have to move in with her parents and they won't allow my brother, so I would be splitting up a young family in my mom's words. And here, ripe stars, unfortunately there are no further updates to this story, at least none I could find, and it really is a difficult situation for OP, but in the end he owns the house so he can do whatever he wants with it. And also, as people pointed out correctly, his family really treated him like trash.
And the next one is titled, Am I the a-hole for pissing off my HOA? They don't allow home renovations during the weekend. My HOA a few weeks ago decided that they will not be allowing home renovations during the weekends. They never even gave a sensible reason other than people want to enjoy the weekends without noise or something. Kind of ridiculous if you ask me. Well, last Thursday a tree fell onto my shed, crushing it and also destroying my gutters. I don't have time on weekdays, it was going to take me and my wife quite a while to fix it. She cannot do it alone, so we waited until Saturday morning. We were both too busy with work and I was out of town until Saturday morning, so we did it then. To me, this didn't even seem as a renovation, these are emergency repairs. Well, we spent about 6 hours and we fixed the shed, gutters, replaced some shingles and have someone remove the tree and take the wood away. Well, the HOA is not happy. They sent me a letter saying I need to pay a fine for violating the CCR. I am 100% sure that is illegal and they cannot do this. I ignored it. They then came and visited me and explained to me I would need to pay a few $100 fine, that this was a violation of the CC&R and blah blah blah. I told them what I did was not wrong. I had a serious problem. I had to fix it and was only available on the weekend. Now leave me alone and don't ever talk to me ever again about this. And I shut the door. He comes back with more HOA members and they basically say the same crap again and again, and I am getting more and more agitated, and I said, as I told you before, I did nothing wrong, so kindly F off, and slammed the door. I've been getting more letters saying they won't condone or tolerate my aggressive behavior. Absolutely ridiculous. Edit, I forgot to mention, this is not the first time this happened. It happened in Texas a while back. No weekend home improvements. The Houston Chronicle shared the story of one of its readers who has an HOA that doesn't allow homeowners to carry out home improvement tasks on Saturday or Sunday. Isn't that what weekends are made for? If you live in such an association and want to install gutters or replace your front door, you will have to schedule a day off from work to get it done. And a user in the comments said, "Everybody sucks here. I agree that there's a meaningful distinction between home renovations and emergency repairs, but dude, you cannot just head in sand when you don't like something. You adult up and deal with it. Putting it off and yelling at people when they come to talk to you about it will get you nothing except more fines. Find a lawyer, remove the chip from shoulder and talk to the HOA folks. Good luck." And the next one is titled, "Am I the a-hole for reporting my neighbor's deer feeding to our HOA?" Fairly straightforward question. My neighbor is acting like I'm the straight up devil and I really don't see how. But this is our first house, so my fiance and I are not particularly up to date on what is considered the norm in dealing with neighbors and HOAs. We live on a couple of acres in a gated community that is about as far out as you can go while still being in town, and in this neighborhood have both a fairly strict HOA and a pretty large number of deer. There are pretty clear HOA guidelines about not feeding deer. Despite this, my neighbor has had a deer feeder set up in their backyard for a decent while, fairly close to my yard, and it has made it where our yards are the deer hotspot of the entire neighborhood. I by no means dislike deer. When we were looking at houses, the fact that there were some deer roaming around seemed neat. But at this point, the neighbors bringing in a constant swarm of deer around has virtually destroyed a decent bit of the landscaping in my backyard, and I am worried that my dog is going to manage to get hurt trying to mess with one. Plus there have been some bear sighting nearby recently, and a lot of information I have seen says they can be drawn to all kinds of feeders, and the deer hotspot in my backyard is bad enough without it also becoming a bear hotspot. I discussed it with my neighbor multiple times, and each time they were either extremely dismissive or went into a sob story about how their little kids just love deer so much and being stuck at home from the virus has been hard on them, and the deer are one of the few things that help them get through it. The last time we spoke, I told them that I didn't want to be unsympathetic, but the deer had done thousands of dollars in damage to my backyard and were getting dangerously used to my dog, so if they didn't do something I would have to call the HOA, and made it very clear that I wasn't just saying that. So when they didn't stop, I called the HOA, and the HOA evidently got super pissed at them. Since then she has left me like 3 voicemails telling me I'm a monster and going on about what kind of heartless person would take away a child's one bit of joy during a pandemic. She also keeps going on about how calling the HOA is a low blow because neighbors are supposed to stick together against the HOA, when I was always under the impression that the HOA is a neighborhood sticking together, and it kind of defeats the point of paying almost $200 a month to it if you're going to do your best to pretend it does not exist. Anyway, rambling rant over, think that pretty much sums up the situation. So what is the verdict on this one? Was I fairly reasonable, or is she right that I'm being an a-hole on this one? And a user in the comments said, "Not the a-hole, although I hate the HOA with all my being. I understand why you did it. It was causing damage, and the last thing you want to do is attract bears into the area. Your neighbors doing this can cause a very bad domino effect to happen. I think you have every right to be concerned and try to stop it." And another user said, "HOAs are mostly terrible, but my neighbor's actions, which I spoke to them about multiple times, are causing damage to my property and threatening the safety of my pet, is exactly the kind of thing they should step in for." And guys, I would definitely agree with this. In this situation, the HOA might be needed to deal with this neighbor. I don't think that the OP is an a-hole at all, because just a couple of days ago we had a story where a neighbor was feeding wild animals and it actually attracted wild bears to the neighborhood, which is obviously extremely dangerous. So not only is the neighbor an a-hole, but what she is doing is also extremely reckless and could even endanger her own children. Please let us know in the comments what you think about this story. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.